Alright, so I'm gonna make another video here. I'm gonna try and keep this one a lot shorter and more succinct than the one I made yesterday. Topic I'm picking here, boycotts, strikes, and bank runs. So the Become Ungovernable movement has these strikes planned for the beginning of September, which I highly support, and I've been saying that we really need these strikes and boycotts since this Yellow Vest stuff started. So most people probably seeing this already understand the use, the benefit of a strike or boycott. Oftentimes workers will strike when the employer is not providing a fair or safe work environment, or the wages are just disparagingly low compared to what they should be. So I'm going to give a little example here on why a strike and a boycott might be good for a company, say like Amazon or Walmart. We'll use those two as an example, but there's plenty of other places just like that. So Amazon, I think it was just released that in the last year they made something like $11 trillion. I mean, there were a lot of zeros, and paid no taxes at all. You know, and I believe that taxation is theft. That's my personal stance, though I know some people don't agree with that, and that's fine. But if you agree in taxes, do you think that a company should be making that much money and not contributing at all? What logical reason is there for that? I don't see much. Now, at the same time, this company, the average, I think, yearly salary to work at Amazon is like $29,000. Like that's incredibly low. All things aside, Jeff Bezos makes that every 9 seconds. And you know, good for him. You had an idea, you capitalized on it, you made a killing. Like you're richer than pretty much everyone else on the planet. But you live in a society that you're not contributing to. And we can protest till the cows come home. We can stand out there with signs every day. But realistically, like, is that going to affect Jeff Bezos if nobody listens? Say the system doesn't listen, no changes are made, no rules are placed on corporations like Amazon. Our protest does nothing. Strikes and boycotts, though, that definitely at least would inconvenience him. And in the long term, I really think if we had the full support of our society, and that we're like advocating for our workers, for the families, and for the fact that if these companies were paying into the society properly, we likely wouldn't have to pay so much. So like, why are the workers that are already barely scraping by also responsible for all the costs in society, and not in the same way that these monopolies that really do control us, they're exempt? That doesn't make sense. You look at Walmart, you know, that was my other example. Our taxes are actually helping Walmart workers get by. There's like a very large portion of the workers at Walmart are on food stamps and housing subsidies because they don't even make enough to pay their bills. So we, the people, are paying to help keep Walmart workers afloat. All the while, the Walton family is like riding the gravy train. You know, that's complete bullshit. Like that, and you know, I'm a firm believer that the system is not going to solve these problems. I really don't think we can rely on an elected official to just like write a rule, fix this problem, and oh, okay, it's gone. Like, if you look in the history books, this isn't the first time the American people have dealt with monopolies. And it's probably not going to be the last if we don't get rid of this system. No matter what happens, it'll happen again. The same corruption always seeps back into the system. It's been this way a long time. I'm not going to go off on that tangent right now. But yeah, you know, like that's another really prime example of how taxpayers are actually fitting the bill for things that should be the responsibility. You know, at the end of the day, it's not only just in regards to the workers, but these corporations are also making it impossible for small businesses to thrive. But small businesses can't compete with these big corporations that are outsourcing work to other countries. They're utilizing slave labor or subpar working conditions in places like China, or they're bringing in undocumented workers deliberately so they don't have to pay a living wage. Their practices, they're very discriminatory and harmful. And you know, if the American people wanted to keep their businesses localized, independent, and in their neighborhoods, it's very hard to do that when you have monopolies like Amazon or Walmart directly inhibiting any kind of progress in that sector. So, strikes and boycotts. The workers could strike. Makes it a lot harder for business as usual to continue, and consumers can boycott the products. Yes, this probably would not shut those companies down entirely, and yes, they probably could find other workers, and they probably would still be able to make sales to some people. In the beginning, it probably would not stop this problem completely, but it would get the attention of other people who support what we're trying to accomplish. It would wake people up at the very least. But you know, it's a principle thing, you know, and I'll use myself as an example here before I kind of explain the bank half of this. I hate using Amazon. I hate shopping at Walmart. You know, hate's a strong word, but it's something I try not to do always. You know, I don't need there to be a national strike or a national boycott to be conscious of where my money's going. And that's something that we can all learn just by getting involved in this idea of the upcoming strikes and boycotts, is that, like, we don't really need to wait until September to start being conscious of what we're doing with our money. We have that power. You know, all of these corporations that have lobbyists that are affecting laws being written, you know, the money that they're even using to do that is indirectly coming from us. So the more we are conscious about where our money's going, we're taking money out of the hands of the people that are oppressing us. So, you know, up until then, like, yeah, if you have to buy something at Walmart one day, like, that's fine. You know, it happens. Sometimes you need something, you don't have a lot of money, you gotta go do that. That's fine. But every day making a mindful effort to, you know, go to a local store when you can versus one of these big corporations. Or, you know, if you don't need something right away, don't order it off Amazon Prime. There's a lot of resources out there. Like, you could use eBay. We can start keeping our purchasing power in localized or independent outlets. My city, Portland's always had this movement called Keep It Local. There's always been a very big push to not let big chain restaurants and stores into our downtown areas. Our stores are all locally owned. They're regular, just people in the neighborhood, and that's what we really should be moving towards, and that's something everybody can do. In contrast to protesting outside Amazon and Walmart, which we very well could do, it certainly would help at least a little bit. We can all protest in this way and actually have at least a small effect. Every person can do a little bit, and when we reach that tipping point where there are enough people not buying from these places and not working at these places, eventually when enough people are all doing this continually, that is when we really have reclaimed at least some power that we can start making a difference. And this can be expanded outwards, you know. Look at 5G. You know, imagine if everybody in America that didn't support the rollout of 5G canceled their cell phone plans, said, I'm not gonna use your company anymore. I will not give you another dollar. I will not sign up for another contract. I will not buy another phone until you have thoroughly studied and proven that this is safe. And I'm of the school of thought that it's not. So if it's not safe, then we just won't do business with you. You know, that's how we exercise our power as consumers in the open market. If nobody supports what a company's doing, then we don't shop from them. We don't give them our business, you know, and that doesn't always stop them, but it makes it a lot more difficult for them to continue to operate in the way they do. I would love to see antitrust laws enforced more, but the system's not going to do that because the system's benefiting off of monopolies. So what options do we really have left? States are moving towards making protesting illegal. So, you know, what happens if we can't even protest these places anymore? The only option that is left is to stop funding them. You know, at least in part, we're chipping in. Here's where the banks come in, too. This was something that I've been kind of pushing for. I learned this from the Yellow Vests when they had this idea. They had some manifests several months ago against, like, the Rothschild banks, the central banks over there. Now, some people probably know about fractional reserve banking. Some people probably don't. If everybody were to go to the bank right now and say, I want to withdraw all of my money, the bank would, if you had enough money in there, the bank would say, no, we can't do that, because they are only required to keep a percentage of what you deposit on hand in cash. So say you deposit $100 into the bank. They only have to keep $10 in cash there, and they can loan the 90 out over and over and over again, as many times as they want, because most money now is just numbers on a screen. So they make all of these loans with your money, charge interest, they make profit, and you get none of it. So what would happen in the event that everybody went in and withdrawed all of their money, eventually the bank would reach a tipping point where they wouldn't be able to pay everybody back because the money doesn't exist. It's a Ponzi scheme. So what they do is, oftentimes the bank will actually, the corporate bank would have to close when people do this, because otherwise they would become insolvent. The bank wouldn't be able to pay it back all of its people. It would shut down business. Similar to how a strike ideally, or a boycott ideally, would stop or inhibit the progression of business with a corporation. This is the tactic that everybody can do with the bank. Now, I don't even use banks. I don't trust these guys. It just, to me, it's crazy. I'm paying somebody to hold my money for me, and then they're going to make money off of my money and not share the profits with me. Oh, you get interest on the savings account. You know how much interest I've gotten off of a savings account? Pennies on the dollar, years in. Like, it never amounted to anything. I learned really quick off that it's just a scam. You know, how many times had I had money in my savings account? I was supposed to get interest on it. I was supposed to make money off of saving it there, but then they charge you to check your balance. They charge you for paper statements that they send you. They tap in a fee that you didn't know was coming. Next thing you know, you're overdrafted. You didn't know it. Just, they take the money back. They get all of that profit back from you, and they're profiting off of your money. And not even to mention just that, you've got things like Glass-Steagall that still exist. Like, think of the collapse that happened with the banks in, I think it was 2008. We had to bail the banks out because they actually are allowed to invest our money in the stock market and profit off of it, and also not share that money with us. And they fucked up when they did that, and we had to bail them out, and it's still legal. They're doing now, I wrote an article on this, I can throw in the link on this video. They were talking about, like, the Bank of Cyprus was the first time that they really started doing this with bail-in banking. So instead of having to take taxpayer money to bail out the banks when they collapse, now what they do is this fractional reserve system. So if anything happens, they're just taking the consumer's money. It's not any different. No matter what happens, if the banks screw up with their greedy practices, we're either going to pay it, we're going to be paying for it with our taxes, or we're going to be paying with it with the money that's left in the bank. I'm sick of these guys. Uh, you look at all these countries that are getting bombed and destroyed, and there's a direct correlation to the fact that the only countries right now that are still in our targets are the ones that don't have a Rothschild central bank. You know, it's not hard to see. Almost every president that's been assassinated at some point in time during their tenure was trying to shut down these banking cartels. It was illegal to do a lot of what they were doing up until 1913. The central banking system, or the Federal Reserve, it was literally formed in this secretive I think it was in Georgia. They had a bunch of senators go to the secretive meeting in the early 1900s, and that's where the idea was formed. And, you know, I don't think it's that much of a surprise that about 30 years later, you're seeing the resurfacing of monopolies. You're seeing the banks doing things that our founding fathers never wanted to happen here. And then all of a sudden, oh, there's a Great Depression. Well, funny pattern here that, you know, I didn't know about until the Yellow Vest happened was in the early 1900s, we were actually trying to pass the RIC here. In 19 states actually passed this. They passed the right to call referendums and initiatives. And the reasoning behind this was because Wall Street and the banks were gaining way too much power and way too much influence over our government, over the laws being written. And the solution to that was we were trying to reclaim our power to effectively remove bad laws being written and to write our own laws so we can make sure these people don't have that kind of power. Go figure, after the 19th state, the Great Depression happened. None of the other states passed it. We never got this right federally, and it was all but forgotten about. People went through such immense hardships because of that economic collapse that nobody was thinking about finishing the job there. You know, the more I've read on this, the more I think that was caused deliberately, because if you look at the power that these banking cartels actually have now over the economy, they can cause an economic collapse anytime they want. They have that power over our economic system right now. And it's, you know, not that hard for me to wrap my head around that, you know, back then, when we were trying to push back and create a solution to stop this exploitation from happening, that they caused an economic collapse, and here we are. We still have monopolies. Our banks are exploiting not only just our economy and our money here in America, but they're doing it, these same people are doing it all across the world. You know, we've seen through these like the Yellow Vest movement, through Anonymous, through a lot of these non-political movements, that these issues are everywhere now. Like the New World Order's already started, guys. Like there's a global government through the UN. Their policies are directly linked to why the same problems exist in almost every country. There's a global language, Esperanto. You can look up the Esperanto Foundation. It's in every country already. There are global religions that have conferences that are marked to take place of the current religions on earth. Like, they are really sick people, and we really have to do something about it. You know, we need this revolution. We need people protesting in the streets like Hong Kong and France, and we need that togetherness. So we're doing this together for all of our best interests, not just some, not just half, not one race, not one political stance. Everyone needs to be a part of this. And, you know, we have these strikes, we have these boycotts coming up in September, but, you know, I just wanted to remind everybody that, hey, you know, if this is a day where it's just a hard, for September, I think it's September 3rd to the 7th, there's, no brick and mortar stores, no Amazon, no Black Friday just nothing. Just, those days we're not buying anything. Okay, well, you know, I'm here to say let's up the ante. You know, on those days we're not going to buy anything, but maybe starting now, we can just be more conscious about what we're buying at all. You know, we're going to buy what we need when we need it, but let's all be more mindful about who we're actually giving our money to. You know, if a business is doing things that harm society, or they're not paying their fair share, or they're just a blatant criminal involved in some really sketchy stuff, let's not give them our money. We have that power. You know, that's our right, is to spend where we want to spend. You know, it's something that I think could be really effective. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that I've seen, you know, that are older, that, you know, protesting might not be something that they're really able to, like, they may be disabled, or any number of things. Like, these 3 tactics are something that everybody can partake in. If you're disabled, obviously striking might not apply to you, but boycotting does. And I've noticed there's a lot of people out there like me who are already doing this. You know, I just don't buy at Amazon ever. I don't shop at Walmart ever. I prefer eBay over Amazon, those types of things. Like, that's something we can all start doing now. You know, we can ease into the concept little by little. Hopefully that can make a cumulative difference in showing people just a different way to do things. Or not. I mean, who really knows? From what I've researched and read and dug up, it just really seems like people have always been exploited and manipulated and lied to as far back as I can tell. So, you know, like, actually overcoming this once and for all, it seems like this is still just on the to-do list for humanity. So I'm of the school of thought I'm just gonna try it all. You know, I'll boycott these guys. I won't use the banks. I'm just one person. Me doing that's never gonna be a threat to these big businesses. And, you know, maybe if we all do what we can in that regard, but also, you know, make a point of, like, explaining to other people, you know, I'm doing this because, you know, like, I'm not gonna shop there anymore because, you know, like, that, maybe that's planting a seed, you know, like, and maybe we do need to just be patient a little bit and just have that faith that eventually we will reach that tipping point. And with all things, you know, it takes time. Like, we can go out and protest in small groups, explain the message, and people like it, and they ask me all the time, when is the next event? So, like, we can grow the protest side of this slowly but surely by just planting seeds. And at the same time, when we're trying to shut off that money flow, that probably won't happen overnight either. You know, like, we can all be an example by consciously putting our money in places where, you know, the businesses are treating their workers fairly and they're doing the right thing. They are contributing and giving back. You know, like, we can all do that and plant these seeds, but we have to, I guess, remember, you know, I forget this a lot too, is like, you know, if I just don't use the banks and I just don't shop at these places, but I don't tell anybody why I'm doing that, and I don't, like, recommend, hey, like, other people to, you know, do that too, then my effort's kind of wasted, because it's like, at the end of the day, that me alone is never going to reach that tipping point. Like, so that's I guess my message today, is that, like, I'm sure there's tons of people out there already doing the same kind of thing, but you know, maybe let's all be more vocal about why we're doing this, and, you know, showing people, like, the ways that we are already, like, staying as far out of the system as we can, and how we are not funding the system anymore, and the ways that, like, in our day-to-day life, that we're exercising all the power we have left. And, you know, maybe some people out there who feel the way we do and just don't know what to do, you know, I pray that they'll find one of these videos from me or from you, or it's something that will show them, you know, that they do have the power, and that like when we all start banding together with ideas like this, that we will make a difference. It just might not be today or tomorrow, but eventually we will. You know, if we keep at it and stay strong, we know what we can do to get this done. So, you know, that's my message, I guess, for today. I just wanted to give a little bit of information about, you know, like bank runs and striking and boycotts and all of that. I'm rambling a little bit here. I know I meant to keep this short, and I didn't. Go figure. But yeah, so, you know, thanks everyone who's tuning in, and thanks to everybody who has their own movements or is still involved in the yellow vest, to the anons out there. A huge shout out, you know, to become ungovernable. There's a lot of these groups out there that are kind of like doing the same thing. And I just really encourage everyone to just keep an open mind every day. Do your own research. I'm going to throw a couple links in here of some stuff I've been trying throughout this movement to, you know, every time I research something like this, I'll throw a little page together with like the videos I watched, the links to the articles I read, kind of try and explain it a little bit. I did that with the bank runs. I think that could be a wildly successful tactic, and it's definitely necessary. Speaking as somebody who doesn't even have a bank account, you can definitely get by like that. I don't have any cards, and it's fine. Sometimes there might be a step or two to extra to get some cash, but I feel a lot better. There's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for that feeling of knowing that you are not funding a corrupt system, even if it still exists. Like for me, like it still exists and it drives me crazy. But I feel great knowing that I am doing everything that I can to legally not enable it, not fund it, not support it, and not encourage it. And it really is. It is a good feeling. And a lot of us are finally banding together. They're starting to get it. You know, Facebook isn't the best place to do this stuff, but you know, I'm still toughing it out here, because the only place we're ever gonna find the people that don't get it is on Facebook. You know, and that's okay. It's absolutely okay. They've been lying to people for generations, so, you know, I will never hold it against anybody for not seeing things the way I do, or not knowing some of the things I do. And at the same time, like, I'm not God, I'm not like this, I'm not a college professor, you know, I'm just another guy out here learning things and dedicating all of my free time to reading about stuff. So I know it, like, I want to understand, like, if I'm gonna do this, like, why should I do it? You know, and things like the economy, that's something they wanted people to not understand for a long time. And, you know, that con's gone on long enough. They've made enough money. Like, it's got to stop. So, I think I'm going to start trying to just, like, do one of these every day. Just talk, you know. I think it's important that there are more voices out there, you know, just sharing ideas, putting stuff out into the collective that everyone can do, explaining how to do it. You know, something as simple as walking into the bank and just taking all your money out. I never knew that that actually could be turned into a tactic that would, like, help everybody, but it is. You know, imagine doing a bank run and forcing all the banks to close until regulations were actually imposed on them. You know, if we never actually get outside this system, that's still a good band-aid. You know, that's still, even if we can't all agree on, like, screw this system, let's do something else, that is still a way that we can agree to disagree on that, And like when we all agree on the bank corruption, we still can do that bank run and put our other differences aside and just deal with the banks, you know. And the same thing with the corporations. You could have a completely different way of thinking about like our future in politics, or what kind of a system we should have, or what kind of an economy we should have. But like, it seems like a majority of people are always going to agree that Amazon's gotten way out of hand, Walmart's gotten way out of hand, the way they use things like Facebook and their algorithms to actually know what you want, so they can like prey on you while you're out there networking to get you to buy things. It's just like, that's sick. It's sick. They know people are suffering and having trouble paying their rent, paying their bills, getting by on the day-to-day. And yet these corporations will still prey on you and try and like manipulate your head to spend your every last dollar on products that are costing them next to nothing. You know, these people don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about any of us. They care about money. And something's got to give. So, you know, an idea I've had is, you know, one thing we could do, I know there's a website out there that provides like alternatives to like Amazon, these shopping things, alternatives to Prime. It's growing. One thing we could all start doing is just, you know, sharing with people too. You know, like if you want an alternative to this, like maybe we could have like a little resource page on like opt out of the corporations, you know, like who knows, you know, the ideas are endless. And like when we set our differences aside on some of these things and then work on the things we can agree on, like there's a lot of things we can do here just within the scope of this like general idea. You know, if you want to make it so vague, it's like how to hit these guys in the wallets. You know, like if that was the one goal, like the people who are oppressing us, the people who are paying lobbyists to have laws written that the people don't want, you know, is the homelessness. There are a lot of ways that people can push back, even the landlords. Imagine, because like my city has a tenant union, and most people know what unions are with, you know, related to work. You know, the workers all band together in a union to collectively exercise their rights and ensure that they are proper, that having a safe work environment, they're being paid fair living wages, etc., etc. It's not socialism. That's just what people can do. If all of the carpenters in a city join the carpenters union, it's the same thing that the companies are doing. If the companies hold all of the power over what a worker gets paid to do the job, they control how much you can even get paid to be a carpenter. But now if all the carpenters are in a union, they can all say, we won't work for less than this. There's no other carpenters in this city that will work for less than that. You have to pay anybody at least this, or no one's going to build your stuff. You're making this much money. You're still turning a profit. Like, that's how unions work. Well, we can all do the same thing with the rent problem too, with tenants union. Imagine if all of the tenants banded together and said, we are not going to pay these rent increases anymore. You can evict all of us, but then there's not going to be any tenants to occupy your buildings, and you still are going to be on the hook for the real estate taxes for your properties, and you're going to have to pay the government out of your own pocket if you don't make the rents fair. You know, this is why we need to come together. And not just to protest, but to also share ideas, to learn from each other, and to start talking about things like this that we can do that are legal and not against the law, that reclaim not just our power over decision making or our ability to have a say in how our lives are managed, what freedoms we have, where we can go, what we can do, what we can have. Like, it's our power over, like, our money is literally funding everything. And if you take it a step further, it's our labor that's funding everything. Like, our money, our labor is generating that money. There is a direct connection between our work and the money that we have, or that we are spending, or that corporations like that have, or that the landlord has. It's all us. So let's start putting our heads together and start thinking of things that we can do to exercise and use the power that we have right now to make a difference. Strikes, boycotts, you know, rent strikes, you know, everything. Like the opportunities are endless when we get out of our own way. And I'm seeing it happening out there. It's, you know, so many people are starting to set their differences aside. You know, Facebook's going to always want us to think that people are still at each other's throats, but you know, that's always going to be there a little bit. But, you know, I think the general bulk of society really just wants to compromise and meet in the middle on most things, and we can do that. Like, we're obviously going to have some issues that are going to be a little bit harder to get past than others, but the large majority of this stuff we definitely can fix if we come together. So I'm going to sign off with this video. I'll post some links, post the article I wrote on like the bank runs, how that works. I may have a couple other ones I can throw in there for a bit of resources. You know, beyond that, you know, if people have other ideas and like things that we could be doing, let's start putting them out there, man. Like, take that step, take that jump, you know. Like, before all this stuff happened, like, I never made videos, like, I never really put my ideas out there, you know. I didn't think they had much worth, and you will be shocked at like how many people might actually support what you're thinking or learn from what you know if you take that leap and just put it out there into the open. So I encourage everyone to do that today, tomorrow, and just keep doing it. Keep up the repetition. Like, let's grow this collective of you know, awakened people that really care about making a difference, and let's keep up with showing people you know, ways to fight back, ways that they can stay as far out of the system as they can without being arrested or facing physical harm. You know, let's show people that we can stand together in civil disobedience, peacefully, non-violently, without fighting each other. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think I'm contemplating today, is that, you know, I came to a lot of these conclusions on my own. I've talked a little bit about it, but, you know, if we all aren't being incredibly vocal right now, not just about what we're doing, but why we're doing it and what benefit it will have, and being realistic too, you know, accepting the fact that, like, you know, in small numbers, none of this stuff's probably going to change the whole system, but it's about, like, a snowball effect. It's about building off of what we're doing and growing that, like, building something that more people can come to and feel safe and welcome, and that something good's going to come of it. So, like, we, you know, and I'm definitely lumped into this, like, really need to put more emphasis on the why, not just the what, so more people can understand that, like, when we advocate for things like not voting or boycotting these corporations, or like